Hello, this is Asian Movie Pulse Interviews. I'm Adriana Rosati, and I'm here today with producer Chiaki Yanagimoto. I hope I pronounce this correctly.
You're perfect.
Who is also the mastermind behind the newly launched Sakka Films. Now, we will have lots of time to talk about Sakka Films, but I want to start asking you, what brought you to the film industry in the first place?
Yes. Yeah, thank you again for this time. Yeah, so I was born and raised in Japan, and I've always wanted to be involved in films. So after high school, I came to Los Angeles and attended film school, and I've started producing independent films. So my background and really like what I do mainly is producing. And I've been fortunate enough to be involved in film industry in some capacity for, ever since film school. And I've started a company about 5 years ago. And since then, it really expanded to lots of various fields of entertainment. I would help film projects, but also like lots of Japanese businesses that are trying to launch and come to the US side. So I would help projects, productions, businesses, and I really became the bridge that fills the gap between Japan and US. So still, mainly producing, but I think our company is in a unique position that can work with both sides of the Pacific.
Okay, and then how did the Sakka idea come together? How you decide to create it?
Yes, so as I said, I've been producing films, and I would go to film festivals around the world, and there are lots of festivals that focuses on Asian films and Japanese films. So I would go to these festivals, and I would meet the directors and producers from Japan, and I would watch their films. And their films are great. I love the audience reaction, and then I become friends with them, and then I come back to LA, and I'm excited to talk about their films to my friends. But their films, there weren't many films that found distribution here in the US. So I had no chance to share with my friends here. And I will remain, friends with them, these directors and producers in Japan. I would, talk to them and, I thought your film was, won an award at this festival. I thought it was coming, and, we would have conversations. And from these conversations that I was having with my friends in Japan, I started to see the patterns of why their films were not coming to the US and really the rest of the world, other than domestic in Japan, and especially for independent films. And it's not really simple. Like it's depends on the film. It's case by case, but I started seeing a bigger issue of how Japanese independent films were not penetrating a global market. And so I saw that as an issue. And another thing was the directors that I talked to really wanted to show their films. And that was just, a pure ambition or goal to share films with the overseas audience. And really, I saw the missing piece in the whole system that becomes the bridge again between Japan and the rest of the world. And seeing all these great independent films from Japan and understanding what the producers and directors in Japan wanted to do, and really the frustrations that they were having, that their films were just not shown in other areas of the world. So I started thinking about this idea about what can I do to become the bridge, what can I do to bring more films and also really connect the global market with Japanese filmmakers and really boost the presence of Japanese films in the world. So that's how the original idea of Sakka came out to be.
You are talking about something stopping this Japanese, more independent Japanese film coming to this side of the world or to US, and which which filters did you understand that they stop this process? What are the main gatekeepers in this game?
Yeah, I think, yeah, that's a great question. I think it's not really a gatekeeper that's stopping the films. It's really the lack of a piece, lack of system that brings a lack of like really landing place for these films for the global market. And, you know, without feeling, I mean, thanks to, you know, a lot of like streaming platforms, their films might land somewhere in the, you know, streaming platforms, but it just becomes one of the million other titles, and they don't know what's going on. They don't really have a true meaning of like true platform that they can promote their films or share their films. And it also comes from my personal experience of, you know, having produced independent films and really having that frustration of, you know, showing the films but not really like know what's going on. Because there's just no transparency, and it just becomes really, you know, far, because there's so many filters of like, you know, like a regular key players in the industry of, you know, distributor and marketing team and all that. So I think it's just a lack of system that really connects directly the directors, the filmmakers side and the audience. And I think you know, there's of course wonderful distributors in the US and really the rest of the world that handle, you know, Japanese films, like how Janus Film was doing Drive My Car in the US. I think they did a great job distributing and really promoting the films and conveying what the film was about. But their focus is they tend to do a lot of directors who already, you know, won Cannes and, you know, won awards at Berlin and Venice. So I think I felt like there has to be something that, you know, that becomes a landing place for I wouldn't say smaller films, but like more emerging voices from Japan.
Okay. But so far we haven't actually said what Sakka film is. So do you wanna tell us exactly what it is, and also
yes,
what are the unique selling point of Sakka? You know, apart from you know, bringing these films that usually don't come. So yeah.
Yeah. So Sakka is a new distribution hub for Japanese independent films, and really promote Japanese emerging voices and unique filmmakers that are coming out to global market. And I think we are unique because we're not just a streaming platform, but we also want to promote Japanese films in general. And we collaborate with you know, not just filmmakers, but like film festivals and, you know, really the community that pushes Japanese films, Japanese independent films. And we offer only festival selected titles. So, you know, I understand that no film pleases everybody at any given day, but hopefully it helps you to, you know, to see that it is worth the time when you have, you know, millions of other films to choose from. And what makes us unique, I would say, is we focus on the directors' voices. So, and we try to bring the audience and directors' sides closer. So for example, we have a feature where the audience can send personal comments or reviews to the director directly, and we can help you know, translate to from English to Japanese. And we also to some level we also act as an agency. So if, for example, if a US producer wants to do a remake or work with the director that we have on our platform, we can be the bridge and help communicate the business side as well. And it sort of like, you know, becomes a full circle as in terms of that all we do is to become the bridge between Japan and US, and really we're here to connect the both sides and expand the community that promotes that become cheerleader for Japanese independent films.
Okay. And the graphic image of Sakka is really vibrant. I really like it. But
thank you.
The name Sakka, has it got a meaning? Do you want to tell us about that?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, so Sakka, and thank you again for your comment on the logo. There's a great Japanese designer, Manami Kudo, who helped us with this beautiful design. Yeah. Thank you very much. I'm so glad to hear. So Sakka means, Sakka is a Japanese word, and it means creator or author or auteur. So if you're talking about novel, it's a writer, and if you're talking about manga, it's manga artist or creator, and if you're talking about films, it means writer, director, or really auteur who has unique voice. And when we started working on this idea for Sakka, we really didn't set out to become a streaming platform with like hundreds of films and be done with it. We of course we want to have more films we want to share more films. That's what we're here to do. But I think our bigger mission is to introduce unique voice of these filmmakers. So usually like first time or second time filmmakers, and we're really here to promote them. So Sakka, like having the filmmakers in the center was really important for us.
Okay. And talking about filmmakers, I know the the film Melancholic, his director Seiji Tanaka have a special meaning for you. Do you want to tell us a bit the story behind this?
Yes, yeah, thank you. Yes, so first of all, we currently have 5 films on the platform. And all those films are like our babies. Like we care about these films, and we talk to the directors directly. So we know what they want to do, and how passionate they are about their films. So they're all very personal to me. But Melancholic, as you said, is slightly more personal to me in a sense that when I started working on this idea. In 2019, there was a festival in LA that was showing Japanese films, and Melancholic was one of the films that they were showing. And I was already hearing about this film. I knew that this film was creating a buzz around like Asian film festivals, but I didn't really, I purposefully shut down all the like information before watching the film. So I went to the theater and I watched it, and it was so unique. And of course, it was good film. It was entertaining and it was fun, but I just felt like it was just so unique and so original. And I felt the possibility of Japanese independent filmmakers. And so in 2020, when I had an idea of what Sakka is going to be like. And when I was finally ready to reach out to the rights holders, and I didn't really have any background of acquisition or distribution. So I just started reaching out to the films that I liked. And Melancholic was the first film that I reached out to. And I literally just Googled, like who was behind Melancholic's team. And I reached out to not a producer, but somebody who was working with the producer, and it kind of connected to the company that had the rights, and it was already in the hands of Japanese sales agent, but called Colorbird, and they were really open-minded, and they opened the door for us, and they're a great partner to work with. So I'm so happy that Melancholic became one of the 5 films to launch with.
Yeah, it's a great film. I saw it. I think it was the the last edition of Udine Far East Film Festival before the pandemic. And I was lucky enough to interview the director and Minagawa, the actor. He was amazing. The transformation film. It's really, it was great. And did you have any other criteria that you want to pinpoint to that you use when you select the films for your platform?
Yeah, we didn't just want to have any Japanese films. So we had 3 criteria to begin with. One was live action films, because I felt like anime already has very strong fan base and strong presence in the world. So we wanted to focus on live action films. And the second one is contemporary films, modern films, because again, classic Japanese films like Kurosawa and Ozu and Oshima, they already have strong fan base and presence in the rest of the world. So we wanted to focus on contemporary films. It doesn't have to be brand new films. It could be films from 2014 or 15, but we're now focusing on films that are from 80s, for example, or 70s, for example. And the third criteria, which I think is most important for us, is that we select, we have film festival selected films outside of Japan. So films that have already screened or won awards at film festival outside of Japan. And I think there's so many films out there that are available to see, and sometimes you kind of, you go on Netflix and just browse through, and you spend more time, selecting what film to watch than actually watching the films. And I felt like it's important to have some kind of assurance by somebody. And I think festival selected films are a great assurance to have. And again, it's not like, it doesn't mean that you would, it would be a masterpiece and you would fall in love with it at any given day, but at least that it's liked and praised by festivals. So hopefully that helps you, that helps convince you that it's worth the time.
And you mentioned the festival, and I guess it's very important for you going to festivals or following festivals. And there is also a section on your website for festival, I saw. And also I want to ask you about the festival going, and if you have a dream list of festival that are very important for you.
Yeah. Thank you for mentioning the part of the platform that focuses on festivals, because again, from my personal experience and background of producing, I've gone to many festivals that are wonderful and that focus on Japanese films and Asian films. And it's important for me to see the reaction of the audience there, because I feel like, and I was thinking about this the other day, I feel like nowadays it's kind of hard to watch films without knowing what other people think about those films. We are on, social media, and like we would see reaction, like trailers, and there we see comments, and we hear all about other people's reactions first before watching the films or before deciding to watch the films. If you go to Netflix, they decide that it's likely that I'm gonna like these films. And if you go to Amazon, you see the 5 stars, and you already know, what other people think about these films. But I think that it's great that sometimes, and I'm sure, you have experience, I have experience, I think everybody who loves films have experience of finding, like, running into or stumbling upon some film and not really knowing what to expect, and really end up loving that film, or end up being a film that affects you in, like, on a personal level. So, regardless of what other people think or what the main majority of people think. So, sort of going back to the festival crowd, I think it's important to see the audience reaction, because that's where you see the real reaction without, no influence from big marketing. And so I, I get the real direct reaction from the audience. And also it's important for me, for us to go to this festival, because we select films partly based on or from the conversation with festival directors and programmers. We would get recommendation from them, and sometimes we get, they help us talk to the rights holders of those films. So it's important for me to have those conversations and really, get the idea of what films are creating buzz and what films they liked. Oh, and then the film festival dream list. So I would personally recommend all these great festivals that that we introduced on Sakka. There's, as you mentioned, Udine Film Festival in Italy. There's a Nippon Connection. There's Japan Cuts in the US side. There's also New York Asian Film Festival. In the US, there's also Hawaiian International Film Festival that have great Asian films. And in Europe, there are many like local festivals that focus on Japanese films, like Japanual in Austria, and many other film festivals. So I definitely recommend them to all the fans of Japanese films and Asian films, really. And of course, eventually, the festivals that support the auteur, like Berlin and Sundance, and those bigger festivals are definitely ones to watch as well for us. But I have personal love for these local film festivals that have very passionate fans who love Asian cinema. So yeah, I mean, in the past couple of years, I haven't been able to travel, but it's really a pleasure, and it's really a great experience to go to these festivals and watch the films with the crowd.
Yeah, it is. And talking about watching the film with the crowd, what do you think about this duality now between the cinemas and the streaming platform? Are the streaming platform killing the cinema? Definitely not yours, because your platform and other they have curated and selected film. Nothing to do with this, but in general with this so many big streaming platforms.
Yeah. I would say no film is primarily made or only made for small screen. And I, personally love going to the cinema and watch a movie in theaters. So it's always, great experience and special experience. But also, I think it's a fact that streaming platforms and streaming, the way to stream, the way to watch films on computer and on streaming platforms is really helping certain films reach the audience. I think it's really a certain fact. So I'm not really here to take sides of. I don't think it's a streaming platform versus cinema experience. I think it's more it complements each other. Certain films are definitely great to watch in cinema. And I mean, all films are great to watch in cinema, but I think it really, certain films, especially independent films, sometimes benefit from having presence on streaming platform. And of course, as an experience, as a producer and filmmaker side, of course, everybody wants audience to watch films on big screen, but sometimes it makes sense for certain films to have presence on a platform.
Definitely. And what do you think about the Japanese film industry at the moment?
Yes. So I think, first of all, Japanese film industry is very unique and different from the rest of the world, I think. And it's different in how it works, and really the mindset is very unique. I'm not saying this as it doesn't mean that it's bad. It's just very different, and that is the same in sort of every spectrum of the industry, of how the whole industry works. And there are very traditional ways of how it works, how the film is produced, how the film is distributed, how the film is marketed. It's very different from, I think, the rest of the world, and it allowed them to focus on domestic side of the business. So I feel like on the sort of macro level, I think Japanese industry is sometimes missing the opportunities to go out to global market. But I think that difference is what makes things very exciting and unique in Japanese industry. If you look at, micro level, if you see the films that are coming out in the recent years, it's very exciting. There's something very exciting happening, and there are many new unique voices that are coming out. And I think the soil that nurtured, the greats like Kurosawa and Ozu are still there. So I think in the recent years, Hamaguchi was, won awards at many main festivals and many big festivals and Oscars. And it was great to see him, really like going out to these global market. But again, he already won Cannes and he already won many festivals. And I think it's great to see these younger generation filmmakers to come out and do interesting things. I think they're very unique, and I think it's our job to really share their presence to the world, and I hope Sakka is doing a small part of that job.
Okay, thank you. And I have another little question. I know that you are in a way involved with sake and Japanese food, and in 2015 you produced a documentary, Kampai for the Love of Sake, and also you are a bit of an expert yourself of sake. And so do you have I was wondering if you have a secret dream to put together all these passions of yours, film, sake, food, or if you rather keep them separate?
Yeah, that's a great question. I wouldn't call myself expert of sake. I'm just a big fan of the drink. But yeah, thank you for mentioning. I produced documentary films about not really about sake itself, but it's about people who work in the sake industry. In 2015 we did a Kampai for the Love of Sake, and then we followed with Kampai Sake Sisters, who's and we focused on 3 female who work in the sake industry. And besides what I do in the film industry, I actually also run a sake bar in Los Angeles with my husband, and we really share the passion of the makers and distributors of sake to the audience, the patrons at the restaurant. And I think in that way, it's kind of similar to what I do in films and with Sakka, where on Sakka, we're here to really promote the passion of the filmmakers that they have and the films, and really the unique story each filmmaker has. And for sake too, each maker, each brewery has unique story. And I love working in both worlds because I'm just happy when the audience or the customer at restaurant really find the uniqueness and greatness of their product. And so in a way, I'm already sort of combining both worlds, but yeah, it'll be great to do another Kampai documentary, because there are so many, great people who work in the sake industry.
There is a great interest on sake at the moment. Yeah, I noticed.
Yeah. Sake, the drink, has been very popular in US, but also in Europe as well. In the recent, I would say, like in the past decade or so, it's become from something that just gave you a headache to to something that you would appreciate. And it's really, and I can talk about sake as long as it takes, but it's really
the matching and pairing with food is very...
Exactly.
I love
exactly. And
Mari Chiba from the film Sake Sister. So yeah.
Yeah, I think thanks to people like Maria, you know, I think people are discovering, even in Japan too, more people are discovering the greatness of sake, as you were saying, like to pair it with certain food and play with the temperatures and play with like everything. And it's really it really has a great potential as a drink once you really get deep into it. And I think and again, going back to the unique voice and unique films from Japan, I think once you're exposed to it, once you get curious and you have curiosity to know more and hear more voices directly from the filmmakers, I think you will find more greatness and more uniqueness and what makes these filmmakers shine. And I think that's part of what I enjoy doing Sakka. I would talk to the filmmakers, and we have video contents on our YouTube channel where we have the directors and the festival programmers or directors from the festival that their films have been to. So for some films, they were there before the pandemic together, and they really enjoyed the audience at these festivals. Sometimes it's a festival they couldn't go because of the pandemic, but they're finally, really having a conversation with how the film was perceived in those festivals. So I think, creating those contents have really helped us understand what they were, what was going through their minds, and a little bit behind the scenes as well.
So let's finish with the question about the future. Where do you see Sakka in the next 12 months?
Yeah, so we've just launched a couple of weeks ago, and we have many exciting things on the horizon. And one of our goals is to have more deserving films on our platform and make it available for wider global market. So that's something that we've been working on. And we have a couple films that we're getting ready to launch, getting ready to distribute later this summer. So I hope people stay tuned in. But also, I think our bigger mission, besides of having more titles, is to have to boost the presence of Japanese films is really our bigger mission. And we are talking with several people and collaborators for exciting new ideas to really expand the community. And we're in talks with a couple people who are sharing the same goal of promoting Japanese films and Japanese filmmakers, and who have similar vision and similar goal. And I wanted to talk about the community that supports and that promotes Japanese films and filmmakers. I think one thing that we learned, that I personally learned leading up to the launch and also after the launch, is there are many great community. There are many great members of community that supports Asian cinema, like Asian Movie Pulse. I've been a big fan, and I've been following you guys. But also, it's great to see your fans, talk about Asian cinema and Japanese cinema, and I really appreciate your effort to I don't want to say promote, because it sounds very commercial, but really support and cheer for these Asian films and filmmakers. So I think in the next 12 months, of course, we want to work with more people who support and cheer for Japanese filmmakers and films, and really expand and strengthen our community, and have Sakka as sort of like a hub for these people and filmmakers and audience, and all these people who cheer for Japanese films to gather and discuss. And that's our not only 1 year goal, but in the future, that's what we continue. That's what we want to continue doing.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. So we can finish here. And so thank you very much to Chiaki for being with us today. And good luck for Sakka Films and for the next goals. So
thank you very much.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Yep.
Thank you for this time.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thanks.
Bye.
Bye. Bye.